Many immigrants from Central America say they fled economic hardships. In countries like Guatemala, agricultural woes have led to food scarcity and prompted questions about the role of climate change in immigration patterns. We explored this concept with Todd Miller, a Tucson-based author who covered this subject in his 2017 book titled Storming the Wall: Climate Change, Migration, and Homeland Security.
Economic hardships are very much playing out in places around Central America, for example, Guatemala and Honduras. When you look at, the rate of poverty in Guatemala at 60%, and it even goes up further in rural areas, maybe 70 or 80%, a lot of extreme poverty. But what we've been seeing primarily in the last 10 years is changes in the weather patterns, which are really going to affect people in rural areas who are already suffering from poverty. And these changes are affecting small farmers who will plant their seeds, and then the rain perhaps doesn't come, and the harvest doesn't come, and the crops don't come, and then there's suddenly a food crisis.
How long has this been occurring for?
As far as the climate modeling that some climate scientists have been doing in Central America, what I've heard in my research is that in the last 10 years or so, they've been seeing droughts increasing in frequency and intensity throughout various places in Central America. Of course, they were happening before then. Of course, there's a natural variability, that sometimes droughts are going to happen. But what scientists have been seeing in their modeling is this increasing and more frequent. And then what happens is then rains become much less reliable. And for a small farmer in Guatemala or a small farmer in Honduras who have their own farmers' almanacs, right? They rely on this rain to come at a certain time, and then they plant and it doesn't come. And then they have no irrigation, right? There's not an irrigation system or anything like that. And that's what we're seeing more and more of coming into the present. And as the scientists have told me, will increase into the future if things stay the same.
If climate change has really been a factor for perhaps the last 5 to 10 years, what do you attribute the sudden influx to over the last year or so?
It's real difficult to parse out how many people are coming directly because of climate change. Often there's multiple factors of why people are coming north, each person with their individual story even. However, what I can say is that there's pre-existing problems. There's even pre-existing crises of economic crises where people are living in day to day or not without enough cash to survive or to endure an emergency situation or a political situation of some sort or various things. We could talk all day about what are the converging issues, but what happens is when the changing climate comes into these converging issues, it exacerbates them. So somebody is living in economic hardship, a climate change situation such as a drought, or such as you're a coffee farmer and la roya, or the fungus on the coffee, which the scientists are attributing to climate change, ruins your coffee crop. Or you live on the coast and the sea is coming in, you can no longer live on the coast, or a storm surge comes in with one of the hurricanes or the mudslide or a flood. That then all of a sudden, you're in a situation. So how much of that goes in, that sort of displacement enters into, the different people coming north? I'm surely as a factor. It's really, though, difficult to say how much of a factor it is, or is it a principal factor, or is it affecting all the other existing problems? That's what it's hard to quantify.